Do you want to hear the story that got my grandma kicked out of my family? Unfortunately, the story involves me. Okay, so I am 12 in this story, and we are not talking about my Nana. My Nana that was from the UK was my absolute world. Those grandparents were my life. We are talking about my mom's mom. We called her Nanny. Nanny did not want kids, shocker, told my mom that all the time, and my mom passed that down to me. So didn't really see her growing up until my little brother was born. When he was born, she was apparently super excited. She always wanted a boy, only got my mom, and she was really, really excited to have a grandson. So once he was born, we visited every single summer. So the older I get, the more obvious it becomes to me and like everyone else that she really, really hates me. So my mom basically was like, it's gonna be pretty easy for me to cut you off, but if you wanna see your grandson, who you love so much, you need to be nicer to Scarlett. So Nanny had a motorhome. I honestly don't know the difference between a motorhome and an RV. I think a motorhome is just smaller. So picture like a small RV. As a kid, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Anytime we got to drive in the motorhome, I was like so excited. So Nanny knows that I love the motorhome, and Nanny says, I'm gonna take Scarlett on a trip, just her and I. We are going to bond, it's gonna be great. So she decides for April vacation, while I'm in middle school, she's gonna pick me up in the motorhome in Massachusetts, and we are gonna drive all the way to Miami, Florida. I think it was supposed to be like a 4-day journey. I'm excited. I'm thinking that I'm gonna finally get to bond with this lady who has been so mean to me forever. She pulls up, we're all saying our goodbyes. I'm like loading up my stuff into the motorhome. I'm thrilled. As soon as we start pulling away, she says, all right, little bitch, here's how it's gonna go. She's like, this is my bunk, that's your bed. I don't wanna hear back talk, I don't want sarcasm. You are seen, not heard while I'm driving. I pick the music, like all these little kind of my house, my rules vibe. My mom's parents are divorced, shocker, and she has been a single lady forever. Like she never remarried, but she's always dating someone. Like Nanny always has a date. Basically, she was like, we are gonna be making several stops, like each state that we cross, I have a date. And you're just gonna hang out in the motorhome. I'm like, oh, okay. Kind of thought we were gonna spend time together, but whatever. She says, I don't believe in banks, so don't go rummaging around in the motorhome because there's stacks of cash. She then says I am not to touch her bunk whatsoever because in the mattress, she has stacks of cash, like they are scattered around the motorhome anyway, but also a pew-pew because the world is dangerous and being a woman in the world is really scary. And so she has a pew-pew. But I really want to go to Miami and I want my grandmother to like me. So I'm just kind of like, okay. And every time she's speaking to me, she's calling me little bitch. And before you're like, why aren't you texting home? Like, why didn't you turn the motorhome around? You have to remember what I would be coming home to. Like, it wasn't much better at home. And in my 12-year-old head, at least this trip, it's not that different to home, but I'm ending up in Florida. Like, that was exciting. So one of our first nights, she has a dinner date and she's gone. And I'm looking through the cupboards because I'm like, what am I gonna have for dinner? I'm just alone in this motorhome parked God knows where. She comes home and she freaks out. She's like, did you use the bathroom? And I'm sure like I had peed while she was gone. She was gone for like several hours on this dinner date. She says, we don't use the motorhome bathroom. Then you have to empty the tank. It's a whole thing. Anytime you have to use the bathroom, tell me and we'll just pull into a gas station. So I'm like, oh, okay, all the time? Like that's kind of scary. I've never like peed at a gas station before. And she says, yes, little bitch, every time. So just keep that one in mind, okay? We're traveling for the next couple of days. It's a weird couple of days, but it's okay. We are slowly approaching Florida. We start like pulling over to different beaches on the way there. The weather's nice. She's working on her tan. She's got a little mirror set up. We get to one of the beaches. I ask for some sunscreen because I'm the color of a napkin. And she says, don't be a little bitch. We don't need sunscreen. I for sure do. So of course I end up with horrifying burns all over my body. I don't know the degree of what it was, but they were blistering and bubbles. It was awful. She goes on and on about how dramatic I am and my skin is just as dramatic as me and blah, 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 little bitch, little bitch. So my poor little burned body can barely sleep because of all of the blisters. And every time I would move, it would like get stuck to blankets. It was bad. I'm crying, I'm complaining. Then it's like obviously really upsetting Nanny because she already thinks I'm a little bitch and now I'm being a little bitch about it. She was furious. And while I'm awake and drinking water and trying to like cool down, I say, I need to pee. Can I use the motorhome bathroom? Of course she says no. She's like, I'll take us to a gas station. You'll pee in the gas station. I don't know what time it was, but it was late. Like we were sleeping. She was sleeping. So she pulls us around to some gas station and just says, okay, like, there you go. I'll wait for you here. So I am like, what? It's nighttime, it's dark, the bathroom's always around the gas station, so I have to go in on my own and ask the scary guy for the huge paddle key, and then, what? And she's like, you woke me up, don't be a little bitch, go. So I do it. I go into the gas station and I'm all embarrassed because I'm covered in blisters and I have to pee. And I ask for the key. He's like, yeah, it's around back. I'm walking in the dark, open the bathroom door, pee, come back out. Motorhome's gone. Motorhome's gone. Nanny's gone. Now, did I have a cell phone? Yeah, I owned one. It was a Nokia little brick thing. Kind of looked like a chocolate. Anyway, that is conveniently in the motorhome because I didn't think to bring my Nokia to the bathroom at the gas station. Should've, didn't. So I'm immediately hysterical, screaming, crying, thinking it's a little prank, realizing it's not a prank. Where's Nanny? I go walking back into the little gas station convenience store and I'm like, did you see a motorhome? It pulled away. He has no idea what I'm talking about. I ask the gas station guy, can I use the landline? And I call my house and I'm like, Mom, Nanny did this and she's only calling me little bitch and I asked for sunscreen and I'm covered in burns and she left me at this gas station. I'm like going off. So my mom is like, what the actual F? Like, no one can do that to my kid except me. So she's like, I'm gonna get off the phone so I can call her so that she can come pick you up because there was no other way to get her back to me. So my mom calls the gas station back. She's like, the trip's canceled. Your grandma's gonna pick you up and drive you straight to the Miami airport. You're coming home. And I'm like, okay, thank you. The state of Nanny when she pulled up, I swear I could see smoke coming out of her ears. She was so upset. You little bitch, I went on one very quick date. What's a couple hours on your own at 12? Granted, I'm like in my pajamas at a gas station thinking that she's waiting for me. It's not like she dropped me off at the mall. But yeah, I guess she got some kind of booty call that she decided to message while I went into the gas station on my own and just thought that I would be fine. So it was a very quiet drive to the Miami airport. Don't know how far away we were, but she dropped me off straight there. I had never been through an airport on my own before, so I asked if she would walk me to security. She's like, yeah, fine, whatever, okay. So we are just kind of looking straight ahead, not acknowledging each other. I'm exhausted, she's pissed. And by the time I get to security, I realized that she had turned around at some point. She was not there anymore. And we never spoke again.
This has to be the worst case of child SA that I have ever read about, to the point where it's so hard to find details about what actually happened online because it's that bad. Huge trigger warning, we're talking about children and SA, so if you think that listening to this is gonna harm your mental health in any way, please skip this video. And guys, I cannot express enough how much I need it. Like, your mental health is #1 priority, so please take care of yourselves, but this is not going to be an easy one to listen to. In this case, there are 5 generations of family members all having kids with one another. We're going to Nova Scotia today in Canada, specifically an area called South Mountain. Very quiet, very remote, very isolated. That is where William Goler was born to his parents, Stella and Charles. He was one of 8 children, so the Goler family was a family of 10. Additionally, there were also grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, you name it. And all of those extended family members also lived in that same house. So it was a full house, to say the least. And the Golers were known as, quote, mountain folk. The house they lived in was away from everyone and everything, aka the perfect place to go if you want to commit a crime and hide whatever it is that you're doing. It was also incredibly filthy and dirty as a result of 1, not having any money, 2, having so many people in there, and 3, just a lack of cleaning. The land surrounding the house was completely unkept. Trash was everywhere, inside and out. The furniture was stinky and stained. There was no toilet, only a hole in the ground, no shower. No one ever cleaned up after themselves. It was moist in there, like when you walked in, the air felt wet, full of bugs all the time. It just was not a pleasant house to live in, I imagine. On top of that, they lived in poverty, so finances were pretty much non-existent. The family would go out looking for berries to pick and eat. They would try to find food from farms nearby to find something to eat. Sometimes they would go fishing. They were barely getting by. And the children were the ones that were forced to do everything: hard labor, cooking, emptying the hole, which was the toilet. They did all of the chores. They were also severely neglected. I mean, the adults didn't even take care of themselves, let alone the children. No love or attention was ever shown inside of that household whatsoever. The children probably didn't even understand the concept of love because they were never shown it. And also, from a very young age, they were told that they were to engage in intimate activities with their family members, with their own siblings and mothers and fathers. The Goler family had a history of reproducing with one another. I think it started in the 1860s, and today's story takes place in the 1970s/80s. So this had been going on in the family for well over 100 years. But at some point, all those years ago, a man had a baby with his sister, and it just started a snowball effect. That's the way that the Goler family would continue to grow, with brothers and sisters having babies together. And because of that, many of the Golers were born with disabilities, both mental and physical. If you didn't know, when relatives have children with each other, their DNA overlaps, obviously, and that overlap makes the chances of recessive genes for various defects and disorders greater greater by a lot. So with every new generation, the Goler family's children were born with even more severe mental and physical disabilities, and it just kept getting worse. And those disabilities affected them a lot, to the point that William was not even able to make it past the 5th grade because he just couldn't, and a lot of his siblings could not either. However, you will notice throughout the course of this video that William, even though he was considered to be uneducated, he was sharper and more advanced mentally than his siblings. And he knew that, and he took advantage of that. William also had anger issues. He had a really bad temper. Anything could make him angry or frustrated, and when he was upset, everyone around him would know. He was kind of unhinged. And what once started off as a choice to grow their family within their family, to have babies with each other, it somehow ended up becoming a strict rule. So at the time of this story, it was expected that all of the children would grow up only to have their own children with either their mom, dad, grandpa, sibling, cousins, aunt, uncle. Like, nothing was off the table. Leaving the family also was not an option. When William was 24 years old in 1969, he married a 16-year-old girl named Hazel. She actually was not a direct family member of his, but she was 16 years old. She was a child, and she was forced not only by the adults in her family, but also from William's family, forced into this marriage, and also forced to start having children almost immediately after. So they got married. They have 3 children. William is now a husband and a father, and there's this sort of dynamic switch within the household. William becomes the leader, for a lack of a better word. Suddenly his parents, his siblings, his extended family members all start looking at William as the new person in charge, all start looking at him as the head of the family. Whatever he said, they did, and he loved that. He made most of the decisions in his family. For one, he decided that all of the adults should go out and get a job and then hand over their paychecks to him. He was also now fully in charge of telling the kids what to do, even if they were not his kids. He would boss around everyone in the house and decide what exact role everyone was to play inside of the household. He also dictated on who people in the Goler family could or could not be friends with. He ran a tight ship, okay? And he was the toughest on his own 3 kids. And this is kind of the part where we start talking about the severe punishments that went on inside of that household. So another warning, we're talking about kids. The punishments against the kids that happened in the household from the adults, mostly from the men, they were awful. And there was a punishment for everything, because even though the house was quite literally falling apart, William would still order the children around to move trash, carry furniture from one place to another, chop wood, whatever it was. If William told you to do something and you didn't do it, you would be in serious trouble. Even things such as William deciding which kids would get to go to school and which kids wouldn't. He set the weirdest rules in place just because he could. And when his rules would be broken, he would gather up all the adult men in the house, which were 15 adult men, to punish and hurt the kids, not only psychologically, physically, but also. And he would target the children from the time that they were toddlers just because he could, because they were the most vulnerable and they could not defend themselves. Some of the punishments included being thrown down the stairs, being shoved into small places that they could not fit into, being forced in there and forced to stay there for hours. Different hard objects such as wooden panels being used on them until they were black and blue. They would use fear, isolation, and threats to keep them scared from the outside world so they wouldn't leave. And then there was a dog. William had a dog that he specifically trained to bite people. And when the kids misbehaved, he would release the dog and order it to go and bite the child. But probably worst of all, like I mentioned, was the SA. And there was a lot of intimate relations going on between family members. But when it came to the adults, they chose to do it most of the time. But when it came to the kids, they had no say. They were forced to do it whether they wanted to or not. And oftentimes this would result in pregnancy. William essayed his own daughter for the first time when she was only 5 years old, and then it turned into at least a weekly basis. William also essayed children in the family that were not his own, so his nieces and nephews. William's other daughters also experienced essay from a very, very young age, not only from their own father, but also from every other male adult in the house. One of the victims later said that William would allow anyone to essay his own kids, and said that the kids would be forced to line up against the wall, and the adults would come in and pick out which one they wanted to essay. They would choose one or multiple, whatever they wanted. William would also let strangers come into the house and pick a child that they wanted to essay. And then they would, and oftentimes the children would be forced to watch. And as another form of punishment, sometimes the adults would force the children to do it to each other. It was the worst thing that you could possibly imagine. At times, there were more than 2 people involved in the act. The adult women, by the way, were more oftentimes than not the ones that were holding the kids down when they were resisting. In one of the bedrooms, there were 4 girls that shared that bedroom, and in the middle of the night, when they would hear William walking up the stairs, they knew that he was coming for one of them. One of those 4 girls later said that she learned how to fake sleeping, slow down her breathing, and she learned how to fake snore, just hoping and praying that William would pick someone else instead of her. It was so bad that some of the injuries included tearing from both the front and the back. Sometimes the kids would even have trouble walking the next day because they would be in so much pain. One of the men inside the house got his 15-year-old daughter pregnant. A grandfather got his granddaughter pregnant. Every single child in that house, boys, girls, they were all subjected to SA weekly, if not daily. Nothing was off limits. It was inhumane. So that gives you a very, very small idea of the kind of punishments that the children were subjected to. But William also had rewards. The kids would have to do things to earn a reward, but the reward was that you would get an entire day off from being essayed. That was the reward that William had to offer. You literally cannot make this up. When William was in his 30s, his wife Hazel had to go away and be at the hospital for a little while. In the meantime, he found himself a new girlfriend who was pretty much the girl version of him, Wanda. She's terrible, maybe even worse than him, but they were fully together. So Hazel ends up recovering in hospital and she comes back to the house, but William refuses to get rid of his girlfriend Wanda, and he tells Hazel that he should be allowed to have both, a wife and a girlfriend. Hazel was not happy about this, but she didn't know what to do. So for a while, William, Hazel, and Wanda all shared a bed together, and both women were not happy about it. So the situation was messy. They were constantly fighting and their fights would get ugly. That went on for a while until Hazel eventually was like, I can't do this anymore. This is too much. And she left. She moved out, leaving her and William's 3 children behind. Wanda, William's girlfriend, like I said, was pretty much the girl version of him, but you could argue that she was worse. She would participate in punishments and in the essay just as much as William on the children, who were as young as 3 years old, using not only her own hands, but also objects. And it got to the point that she became the main adult that the children were scared of, which says a lot, because we know how terrible William was. And Wanda was the worst to William's daughters. Sandra was one of William's daughters. She was struggling a lot mentally. Her mental health was in such a dark place from everything that she was being put through, and she started to feel like she would be better off just not being here at all. She ran away twice. Both times she ran away to go get help from adults in the outside world, telling them what was going on at home, but both times authorities did not believe her. And all they did was put her in the back of a cop car and drove her right back home, straight back to that house. I cannot imagine how defeating and soul crushing that must have felt for her. And of course, when she got back home, she was punished for running away severely. But now we get to 1984, where finally, luckily, 14-year-old Sandra Goler would confide in someone from her school who would thankfully believe her. On January 21st of 1984, Sandra got in trouble at school for not paying attention. As a result, she was made to go stand out in the hallway. When she was alone in the hallway, she burst into tears because suddenly all of the emotions that she had been trying her best to hold in, it just became too much. She broke down. One of the teachers walking in the hallway noticed that she was crying. She approached her and asked her what was wrong, and Sandra just responded with, quote, "My father has been using me as a wife," end quote. Then she told that teacher everything, and that teacher was absolutely horrified at what she was hearing, because any normal person would be. The teacher told Sandra that she believed her, that she would be okay, and that she would help her, and that she would not let her be sent back to that house of horrors. A social worker was then called into the school, and Sandra then described in details the years of essay that her and all of the other children in the Goler house had been subjected to at the hands of the adults. She told the social worker that it happened every other day, and that her father was one of the main adults who did it and encouraged it. That social worker and the teacher then called the police, who interviewed Sandra even more, which I know is necessary, and I'm so glad that so many adults wanted to listen to her and believed her and wanted to help her. But I can't help but feel so sorry for her that she had to sit there and describe in detail the worst things that have ever happened to her over and over and over again. But I'm just glad that they finally listened. By the end of the day, authorities put Sandra in the care of CPS because they were not going to make her go back to the house. So she didn't go home that night, and William just assumed that she ran away again. Police officers, though, didn't want to rush immediately over to the house because the Goler family, many of the adults were known to have anger issues. They were also really big hunters, meaning that they had a lot of weapons at their house. So they decided that a safer way to do it would be to wait until the next day, wait until more of the Goler children were at school, and then pull them to class and remove them that way. The following day, authorities pulled the kids from class to interview them as well. And at first, they didn't want to talk because they were so scared of William and Wanda. But eventually, after some time, they talked. They confessed everything again, confirming everything that Sandra had said and confirming that they too were victims of SA at the hands of William, Wanda, their own brothers, fathers, uncles, and sisters, brother, cousins, etc. Once they had most of the children safe, officers headed to the house. They knocked on the door. William answered, and he invited them inside. And officers were shocked yet again, this time at just how filthy and disgusting and dirty the house was. Everything in the house was damp. It smelled like mold. There were bugs on every surface, flies all around the house. It was so bad. The 9 adults who were home at that time, including William and Wanda, were arrested and taken into the station to be interviewed. The remaining adults, which were 5 others, were also eventually taken into the police station for questioning. William denied everything, because of course he did, but some of the other adults just told the officers everything. They spoke in detail about what they had done to the children, but by the way that they were talking about it like it was the most casual thing in the world. And some of them even told investigators that the children were the ones initiating everything because they were asking for it to happen, because they wanted it to happen to them, which is unbelievable. Like, it couldn't actually register in their minds just how messed up and vile and wrong their actions were. They refused to take any responsibility. Some of them didn't even see anything wrong at all with their actions. 13 Goler adults were charged with over 150 different charges for everything that they had done to the children, who were aged from 5 to 14 years old, and they all received jail sentences. But this is going to make you so angry. William was the one that was handed the longest sentence, and guess how long it was? 7 years. Wanda sentenced to 4 years. All of the other adults sentenced to 1 to 3 years. So they served their sentences, and then they just went back to the house and continued living their life, doing God knows what. The children ended up being placed in foster care, and they were happy about that because obviously the way that they were living there was magical in comparison to the way that they were living before. But really sadly, William's 3 daughters daughters that all loved each other very, very much. They were really close. They all got adopted by different families because they couldn't find a family that wanted all three of them, which is really sad. And then they ended up losing touch with each other, which is really sad. Again, finding information on this case was so hard. It felt impossible. Like, I was Googling things and I was like, am I like misspelling their name? Like, why can I not find anything? So I think most of the children were adopted, but there's not that much information on it. Yeah, this is one of the ones that like makes you take a step back and think, like, question humanity, because how? Anyway, that is all I have for today's case. Let me know if you guys have heard about this one before. I'm actually curious.
Part 1 of Who the Fuck is My Bridesmaid, because I just had to kick my bridesmaid out of my fucking wedding. If y'all know about the girl I made the trauma salad video with, I have since learned that a lot of the things that she has told me about her life, bizarre, completely made up. We had been friends for 7 years. In the late 2010s, she was even staying at my house, rent-free, utility-free, even when I was working and struggling as a full-time student. Mind you, she comes from a very wealthy background. She went to private schools her entire life in the UK. While I came from poverty, she knew this. While she was living with me, she is a very heavy smoker, and once she coughed up blood into my sink, and I was like, what the fuck? And she said, oh, it's the chemo. She has breast cancer. That's what she said, that she has breast cancer. She said she needs to go back to the UK for more chemotherapy. But I was like, wait, we go clubbing all the time. You're constantly drinking and smoking. At the bar, she sits me down in January 2025, and she's like, I need to tell you something. She's in tears. I'm like, what? And she's like, I have breast cancer. Like, it's new information. And I was like, oh my God, because what else can you say? And she's like, I need to go back to the UK and get surgery right away. And I was like, okay. And she said she had a scan. And I was like, okay, well, I'm here to support, you know, because who lies about that? She gets kicked out of school because she doesn't make tuition payments. She was like a year behind, so like thousands of dollars essentially. She gets kicked out and she's upset because her mother passed away, and she's like, oh, I don't know why they're charging me when I'm going through this, when it's just like, it's a business, I fear. She got kicked out of school, and obviously you lose your student visa, so she needed to find a job. So I helped her find a job, and that's how she got her work visa. But to work in Japan, you need to take a health exam, and she did. And she went and posted a chest x-ray on her own public Instagram story. With the severity of the cancer, even with the x-ray, I understand you need a mammogram and you need, an MRI. Even so, the x-ray was clear. We decided to have an intervention all together as a friend group, including my husband, because my husband has also been directly affected by her with money. So we actually just wanted to talk with her because we all had concerns. However, let's focus on the cancer. I told my husband about the cancer because I was genuinely fucking concerned. So we're all in the circle, and my husband straight up asks, because we're already talking to her, she's already bullshitting. My husband's 36 years old. He does not have time to deal with this. We're grieving. We just lost his fucking father. And he was just like, wait, do you fucking have cancer? Do you have cancer? She backtracks and she's like, actually I have benign tumors. And that she got it sorted and checked out. And her best friend that's next to me, like her closest friend that she has now, looks at her and she's like, you never told me that. And she's like, yes, I did. And then her best friend's like, no, you didn't. And it's back and forth. Yes, I did. No, you didn't, for like a solid fucking minute. And that's not something that you lie about or forget about, so it's fucking confusing. She says she went to the doctor again, and she's clear, she's fine. She's gonna get it sorted later. Still, very vague. She always tells us the deepest shit that's going on in her life, like all her personal things. She's always telling us, but then with these things, it's very evasive. The reason we had this intervention in the first place was probably because of money. Where I was genuinely just feeling very weird about the way that she has been treating me with money in the past. So essentially we had this intervention because of money. All of us have mostly been aware of her financial issues. Ever since I met her, she has always been broke, needing money from her late mother, family members, friends, everyone that I can think of, really. Everyone that she knows has some type of story about her borrowing money and not paying back. Every single person. We stopped being friends in 2022, 2023 for like a year because, again, money. Come to find out, recently I found out like yesterday that she was going around telling friends that I was a bad friend, when in reality I was just, I couldn't be around someone that was borrowing money from me and not paying me back. That was it. When we became friends again, my boundary with her was, I do not want to lend you money anymore. I don't want to lend you money. And that boundary was respected. for a bit until, I don't know, I would say the past year. I would lend her money. I would have to chase her to get it back. And, you know, last year, my husband lent her money. She said she'd pay him back in like a week. Took like 2 fucking months to get that money back. She's told friends that she's forgotten her wallet when in reality her wallet was in her purse the whole fucking time. But recently, let's go back to recently, which all started this intervention. One of my close friends, Mia, was staying with me for a full month here in Kyoto this past month, from July to August. She left on August 23rd. On August 22nd, that was a Friday, we decided it's her final night, let's all go to karaoke at a karaoke bar. So I invite our friends. When I'm about to leave my house, Chu calls me on the phone. She says she left her wallet at work. And she works at school, right? So it's the weekend. She's not gonna be able to get it till Monday. I was like, you know, fine, I'll give you 20 bucks. Whatever. I get the cash out. I give her the cash. Night's fine. We have a good night. I'm about to leave. We're all leaving. Me, Mia, we're taking the same fucking taxi together, right? And Chu looks at me and she asks me, she's like, how much more cash do you have left? And I'm like, oh, I have like 5,000 yen. Just think of it as like 50 bucks, essentially. But I have it as a single bill. And I was like, yeah, I just have like 50 bucks. And she's just looking at me. And I'm like, nah, no, I'm leaving. So I left. The next day, Saturday, Mia leaves in the morning, so Mia's no longer with us. However, I was going to go out that night with other friends to the club. But she comes along. And how does she come along, is my question. How are you paying for the train? How are you paying for your drinks? It doesn't make sense, but she's fine the whole night. For me, the problem is the principle, because why are you going out when you have no money? Monday rolls around, where the fuck is my money? She's not messaging me. I'm just like, oh my god, whatever. Tuesday comes around, I text her, hey, do you have my money? She said, oh, can you come pick it up in Sanjo at 9 p.m. at the bar? No, I'm gonna be in bed. That's 35 minutes away from me. Why am I gonna pay money to go and pick up my money? What the fuck are you doing at the bar on Tuesday anyway? And I get it, she has a 54-year-old fucking boyfriend, bartender that works there or whatever, but it's just like, come to find out yesterday, I found out she actually owes him like 70,000 yen, which is, think of it, $700, in old, you know, bar tab fees. I said, I'm not gonna go. She said, okay, I'll give it to you on Friday because we're going to K-Tronada. We had a K-Tronada concert on Friday. And Friday comes around and she tries to soft launch that she's not feeling good. But doesn't matter if she's not feeling good. She's gonna be in that area. Even when her mom passed away, she was in that fucking area drinking and smoking. Nevertheless, she goes out anyway to that bar, instead of going to the K-Tronada concert, which we all paid money for. We paid 80 bucks for the fucking ticket. And she said she had tickets, but she didn't show up. And it's because she said she was supposed to get in for free because this girl that works at the bar was gonna let her in for free. Her best friend's boyfriend comes up to me when we're lining up for the concert. It's like, hey, where's Chu at? You know, you guys are always together. Her friend that was gonna let her in or whatever is not here. She got sick. And he's like, I'm a DJ at this place. Like, I can't even get in for free for this event. Check her location. She's at Colors, at the bar, drinking, not giving me my money back. She's 5 minutes away. It doesn't make sense. Her late mother passed away last year, and she said that she was going to be a millionaire from her inheritance. Once that she's able to get that money, she will be balling out. She'll never struggle again. And I was like, great, awesome. You'll be fine, essentially. She went back to the UK. She said that she handled everything. Everything's taken care of. And now all that she really has to take care of is basically getting the inheritance money to her account, essentially. But this has been going on for the past year. And I know these things take time and, you know, all those things. And she said that she needed to take care of her mother's businesses when she returned to the UK. You know, like she just needed to take care of that. And 2 days ago, I would say 2 days ago, I thought, none of this is making sense. The intervention makes no fucking sense. There's a lot of money involved. You know, what the fuck is this? So I looked into her mother. And it is true, her mother had a lot of different businesses, but they have all since been dissolved and liquidated before she even passed away, years before she passed away. And so I was like, what the fuck? This is crazy. So I messaged her friend from the UK to see what the fuck is going on. Her friend said that her mother basically died broke in a lot of debt trying to fund her daughter's lifestyle while in Japan. I look deeper into the businesses, see what's going on there, late rent payments, all that. Come to find out, I see a co-director there by the name of Barbara Kahan, who was born in, I believe, 1931. I thought that didn't make sense. I search her, immediate news articles pop up of so much investment fraud. Now I find out that Chu is getting sued in the UK. She doesn't know what to do about it because of her mother's debts. But I thought, You are not responsible for your mother's debts. She's gone. It does not get transferred onto you. In some cases it does, if you have like a co-loan, something like that. Come to find out, she never paid for the funeral and asked for someone to pay for her tuition fees at school. They gave her the money. She still owes the university she went to because I got her into that university. When she was getting expelled, I got her a meeting with the dean to see if there's any way to rectify it. The only way to rectify is if she paid, and she was given the money for that. Never went to the school. So as we know, there's no money coming in. There hasn't been money coming in for years. And for me personally, I feel like if I was going to be a millionaire, I would lock in and try to get all that, all the documentation as soon as possible. She's just been nothing, essentially. Nothing has happened. So she's still been borrowing money from everyone around her. She is living in her friend's house and using her late mother's credit cards for Uber Eats and Uber. Mind you, I got her her current full-time job where she is working with children every day. She's been there for about 3 months. I knew how much her salary was going to be, around 220,000 yen maximum, because that's how much teachers make here. She said she's been working 12-hour days, 70 hours a week, 12-hour shifts, very tired, it's a hard job to work with kids. But also she said, my paycheck's only going to be 108,000 yen this month because I'm always calling into work sick. She called hungover. She showed up to work drunk. Come to find out, she never opened up a Japanese bank account in the 7 years she's lived here, and it's like funny to her. So she's using her someone she knows bank account to receive her paychecks. So I called that person, to see like what's going on with her paychecks. She hasn't made over 200,000 yen per month in the 3 months that she's worked there. So at the intervention, she said she's making 380,000 yen per month. No one is making that much in Kyoto as an English teacher. She said it out of her fucking ass. And the fact that I had to go and ask the person that she's using, this person is younger than her. It's a very unfortunate situation. I told her to get out of this situation because she was just trying to help her for the goodness of her own fucking heart. I'm just like, this is crazy. This is actually crazy. You're relying on this person for your bank account and for housing. It's not right. Mind you, she was evicted from her old apartment for not paying rent, not paying bills. She would say that her electrics would also get cut off all the time, even though she paid. She's using the same excuse, saying that her gas has been cut off for months, despite paying. That doesn't happen here in Japan. It really doesn't. It's a really fixable thing. So the reality is she isn't making those payments. Again, none of these utilities are even in her name in the first place, so it's just a continuation of her using people. And it's fucked up. Not only that, she's inviting people into that house. The person that's allowing her to live there has no idea. So I told her she's inviting creepy ass fucking men into this place who's stalking her. She has a stalker stalking her, going into her house. Bad news. I won't go deep into that, but it's like, you're not respecting the home. You're really not. It's fucking dirty. It's a dirty house. You're not respecting the home. So last week, she sent me basically an Instagram message, like a disappearing photo of on this day last year. And on this day last year, I was like, huh? Like, I was like, what happened? She said, oh, remember when I had a suicide attempt and you and your husband had to come and save me? I was like, whoa, that was not a suicide attempt. Thinking to myself, that was not a suicide attempt. What do you mean? Because she turned off her location. She wasn't answering messages. So we showed up to her house and her door was unlocked and she was just on the bed on her phone. And she was like, yeah, when you had to come in, like, make sure I was good. I was like, yeah, that's not a suicide attempt. And so I asked another friend about it yesterday. I was like, did she try to kill herself last year? And she was like, oh yeah, she told me she OD'd when you like came over and helped her. What the fuck are you talking about? And it's such a slap in the face because I have OD'd twice, trying to myself. So I'm just like, you're lying. So back to when I asked her to be my bridesmaid, I asked her to be my bridesmaid because we were really, really close. And it was not clear to me how, like, the extent of her lies. Like, I knew that she had an issue, like, mentally with, compulsive lying. But for small stuff, it wasn't this fucking crazy. Tell me why I just found out she is not Vietnamese. She has told us ever since we met her, 2018, that she's half Vietnamese, half Bayesian from the Caribbean. Turns out her dad is fully black. I just learned that today. And her whole time she was talking about how she has a Vietnamese family and people from Vietnam, and her dad is Vietnamese from Vietnam. And I met her sibling. I knew her sibling. She looked fully black. But, mixed genes, you never know. Tell me why I found out just now, her childhood friend. What do you mean? Her dad is black. And I'm like, okay, but does her wife know this? Because she said she's married, to a woman. She got married in the UK. And her friend is like, married to who? And I'm like, I say her name. And she's like, girl, that's my cousin. They're not married. They're friends. This whole thing has been a lie. This whole fucking thing has been a fucking lie. I am shocked. I am in actual fucking shock. And she does have Blasian features, so I was very confused about this. And also, I call her Chu. I say that her name is Chu, right? I've said it the whole time. That's not her name. Everyone from the UK I've ever met, they call her Chloe. But when she moved here, she said her name is Chu. Her real name is fucking Chloe. She made up the fucking Chu name from YouTube, because that's her YouTube name. And when I, introduced her to my other friends years back, one of them was Vietnamese, and they said, oh, like, they told me, hey, Chu is actually, like, not a Vietnamese name. It's a surname, but it's not a first name, so I don't know where the name Chu comes from. But I ignored it, because I'm like, yeah, I don't know. She told me she's Vietnamese. She looks Vietnamese. I'm gonna believe my friend. That's not even her name. That's not her fucking name. I had just found out that the half-sister that I met, who came into my house, is not her sister. That's her friend. She told me she was her younger sister. Chu told me it was her younger sister. I believed her, because why would you lie about that? Like, who your siblings are, and that they share the same father. I asked her friend about it. She was like, that's not true. That's her friend. I talked to another friend here that lives in Japan. I was like, yeah, that's not her sister. She was like, oh, what about her brother? And I said, what the fuck do you mean? She told me she only has sisters. And she said, no, she has a brother called Rafi, and like sent me the Instagram. And so I messaged about it. That's not her brother. That's her friend / acquaintance. It gets to a point where I feel like I'm living in a sitcom, like an actual fucking sitcom.
It's 7 a.m. We had a phone call from like 8 p.m. to midnight last night. It was very long, trying to interrogate her. There was 6 people in the call who have been directly affected by her. She finally admitted verbally that she is not Asian. Actually, she said she's not Vietnamese, but actually she's mixed and a little bit Asian, but also said that her dad is black and her mom, we see that she is black. She told everyone multiple things about her birthplace, where she was really born, and insists that she actually told everyone that she was born in Barbados. And I asked her if she's really married, and she said no, it's actually a legal partnership. I reached out to the so-called legal partnered wife, and she was like, LOL, no, what, why is she saying that? And then I relayed this to the phone call, and she was just like, why would she say that? I asked her sister that I met on Halloween, is it true that you guys are biological sisters? She's like, what are you talking about? We've only been friends since 2016.
When I tell you this is the scariest story I've ever read, I'm not joking. This story had me not sleeping and streaming a 24/7 stream of Bluey. That's how scared I was. So there's a guy, and he's just got into a relationship with a girl that he is completely infatuated with. He says he's had relationships in the past, but there's something about this girl that he's drawn to. The moment he saw her, he fell in love with her. Couple of weeks in, he'd already planned that he was going to marry her. He wanted to be with her all the time, thought about her 24/7, wanted to call her 24/7. He was just obsessed. He said he'd never been a hopeless romantic before with past relationships, but with her, he just wanted her. Just everything about her, he was drawn in. He'd already planned out his proposal, their first date. They went on like a 3-hour hike. They had a cheeky kiss at the top of like the peak, and he knew that's where he was going to propose to her, exactly a year to the day. He'd already picked out the ring. He was in love with her. However, there was one thing that he thought was drifting them apart. That was, he needed to close the gap. And that was, she never wanted to stay the night, either at her house or his house. It could be 3, 4 a.m. in the morning. As soon as one of them started drifting off, she'd be like, look, you've got to go, or she'd go. And it happened too many times, and he thought there's something that she's hiding from me. After a few months, he finally plucked up the courage to ask her. So while she was at his house, he said, is there a reason why you don't like falling asleep around me? Like, what's the issue? It takes him a bit of time to get the truth out of her, but eventually she admits that she's just started sleep talking, and she's a bit embarrassed by it. When he hears sleep talking, he's like, is that it? Like, my siblings used to sleep talk. I used to be in scouts. People used to sleep talk. Like, I'm used to it. She quickly shuts him down, and she's like, no, you don't understand. The stuff that I say is horrific. I say really nasty, vile things, and I don't want you to hear it. And this is when he admits to her that he's in love with her, and there is nothing that she can say or do that would ever make him change his feelings. And this reassures her, and eventually he just says, why don't you stay the night tonight? And if it gets bad, we can talk about it in the morning. It takes like a full bottle of wine to agree, but she's like, look, okay. And by the time it gets to bedtime, she says, look, if it does get bad, please do just go to the couch. She says to him, don't respond to me, and please don't wake me up, because when people have woken me up in the past, I get really angry and they say it's not me. And he's like, look, got it, noted. I won't reply to you. I won't wake you up but you won't even bother me. Trust me, like, don't worry about it. So they both fall asleep, and after a few hours, he gets woken up and he has a feeling that someone's watching him. But then very quickly he remembers, my girlfriend's here, and he gets a warm, fuzzy feeling because he's thinking about a girl that he's madly in love with, and he goes to put his arm over her shoulder, and she's not in bed. Her side of the bed is empty. So he quickly opens his eyes, and that's when he sees her looking down on him. And she says in a voice that he describes as being like really raspy and really aged. She says, I'll chew the skin off your bones. I'm sorry, what? You'll do what now? I'd be running out of that room so quickly. But my guy just falls asleep. He goes back to sleep, and it's like, she just says some weird stuff. But, you know, she's obviously having a weird dream. He drifts back off to sleep, and he wakes up again, doesn't know how long's passed. And he says he can feel really hot breath on him, and this breath is rancid. It's like rotten eggs and dead animals, and it's breathing quite quickly in front of his face. And he says it feels like a dog is panting in front of him. And he knows that when he opens his eyes, all he's going to see is his girlfriend. Eventually, something comes over him, and he opens his eyes, and he sees his girlfriend pretty much nose pressed to nose. You better go sleep in the lounge because you'll be dead by morning. I'd be leaving that apartment so fast. But, you know, my guy doesn't even question it. He's like, enough said. He creeps out of bed, he goes to the lounge, and as he's leaving the room, he starts hearing her laugh. Again, it's not her voice. He says it's aged, it's raspy, and he's shit scared. He goes to the couch, and that's where he can hear her saying his name. His name's Stephen. She's going, Stephen, Stephen, come back. Stephen, I didn't mean to scare you. I told you it was bad, Stephen. But then in between her sentences, she would do this horrible aged laugh. Stephen is basically rocking on this couch because he's thinking, why am I infatuated with this girl that has just said that she's going to kill me? And he's noticing, like, the more that he's replaying this voice in his head that isn't his girlfriend's, the less he's kind of like waking up. And he's like, why am I so in love with her? And he's trying to remember what's different about this girl than his other girlfriends, and he's like, but I don't know what's going on, she's just scaring me, and he's trying to snap himself out of it. And she's still trying to entice him back. She's saying, come back to the bedroom, with this awful cackly laugh in between. And then she's saying, why don't I come to you instead? Now, Stephen said even if he would have heard one footstep, he would have ran out of that apartment so quick, but luckily she never left. Instead, she starts saying, you're going to walk me up that hill, aren't you, Stephen? You're going to walk me up that hill and you're going to propose to me in exactly a year. I know you're going to do it, and I know you've already picked out the ring. In this weird, raspy voice. That's when he kind of realises that this thing that's speaking out of his girlfriend isn't his girlfriend, because how would she know that he's already planned the proposal? Exactly a year to the day as well. And then he starts to think, has she been possessed? Is something in her? And is he drawn to what's in her rather than his girlfriend? Because he says the way that he feels towards her is infatuation like he's never felt before. He spends the night on the sofa. The next morning, his girlfriend says, how was it? And he says, it was fine. He doesn't know how to tell his girlfriend. What would you do? Has anything like that ever happened to you? What do you think it is? Because that is terrifying. Just the thought of somebody standing over you, I'm going to chew the skin off your bones. I'm sorry, what? You're going to leave. You're going to leave right now where I am.
My ex-husband ruined our daughter's wedding over seating arrangements. First time posting, and honestly, I struggle with whether to share this or not, but here we go. Also, this is very long. My daughter was married last summer. It was a beautiful wedding, from pre-ceremony to the ceremony and then the reception. My daughter did an amazing job planning her very special day. And it truly was her day, as she and her now husband paid for 90% of the wedding themselves. My husband and I helped out a bit financially, as did her father and his wife, along with my son-in-law's family. I could go on and on about the wedding, as it is a memory I will relive in my mind forever. I've not been in a relationship with the father of my daughter for over 20 years. During her lifetime, I truly believe he and I tried our best to shield her from our issues. We would both show up for important events, spent time with our daughter at each other's homes, and truly tried to give her the best upbringing possible. All I ever wanted was for her to know she was loved by both of us. However, he and I struggled with severe communication issues, and the controlling nature of both him and his family were emotionally exhausting. The gaslighting and manipulation I endured will take years for me to fully heal from. Even with these issues, I know that I sincerely tried to stay in communication for the sake of my child. That is until a couple of years ago. There was a falling out, and the behavior that I had been subjected to for 2 decades was now impacting my daughter. She was an adult by this time, and I sat down to have a heart-to-heart with her. I explained to her that I was no longer going to communicate directly with her father, but that I was always here for her to talk to. I also encouraged her to seek counseling for an independent view of what was happening, as I would always have bias. I've never wanted to taint my daughter's view of her father, but I now had to accept that he was and is responsible for maintaining a healthy relationship with his child, and he was responsible for any fallout from his behavior. Now, the wedding. First, the rehearsal dinner. Everything went well. We ran through the ceremony, set up the reception site, ate, drank, were merry, and truly had a wonderful time together. I know how to put on a fake smile and be an adult for the sake of my children. However, I had genuine moments of joy during the evening, even laughter together. This was our child marrying the love of her life and starting out with such hope. It made me think on all the good times of her childhood, and he is intertwined in those thoughts. The morning of the wedding was filled with last-minute preparations, hair and makeup, photos, and enjoying every moment with my daughter. My husband and I were emotional and praying for the health of our daughter's marriage. My husband has been in her life since she was 8, so he is as invested in her as her biological father and I are. Her father and his wife, who he married 5 years ago, seemed happy and enjoyed the day as well. The ceremony went off without a hitch. She looked beautiful. My son-in-law cried when he saw her coming down the aisle. It was a deeply emotional moment. Even her father, who is usually reserved, seemed to be moved by the occasion. Kiss the bride, small talk, family photos, and then you all know what breaks loose. I knew the day had been too quiet, and it was too good to be true. While my daughter was taking photos with her now husband and the bridal party, the guests moved into the reception venue. My daughter and her husband decided not to have assigned seating, even though I warned her against it. This was her vision, and I supported it. The reception hall was broken up by groom's family, friends, and then bride's family. Again, not by seat or assignment, but just how everyone naturally sat down. Her father and his family, who traveled to the wedding, were small in numbers and didn't know many people at the wedding. They walked in later and apparently could not find seats together. I did not notice, as I was chatting with some friends of mine who were in attendance. All of this sudden, my other daughter comes in and says the bride's father is outside, yelling at her for not having seating for him and his family, making her cry and threatening to leave. I walk outside to see my daughter's aunt walking towards me in tears, saying there is nowhere for her family to sit. I assured her we could set up another table and find more chairs. I told her we could have it done quickly. My sister had come outside, and I asked her to fix this so they could get seated. Before my sister could even make it inside, my daughter's father comes stomping towards me and says, "We're leaving." I asked them not to and told them it was a simple fix. I'm just now noticing how I reverted back to my enabling "let me fix this for you" behavior in this moment. Since my sister was handling the table and the chairs, I went over to check on my daughter, who was not just distraught, but truly ticked off. She was done. And I told her that we were going to fix it and just don't worry. Just as I finished that sentence, I turned to see her father and his entire family leaving. They left my baby on her wedding day. My daughter seemed hurt but okay and just wanted to enjoy her reception, so we partied and it was amazing. My husband and our son danced with my daughter in place of her father. The food was great, the music was great, the dancing was great, but my heart ached for the tears that would no doubt come when she had a chance to process what had happened. He missed it. He missed the dancing and laughter and joy of seeing his child so in love on the most important day of her young life. He missed it and ripped her heart out at the same time. That was months ago, and since that time, his family has blocked my daughter on social media. He and his wife hounded her to repay some money they spent on the wedding. He doesn't call her. She has to call him, which she rarely does now. He, with one horrific decision, ruined his relationship with a young woman that adored him, who happened to be his daughter. She has cried, gotten angry, depressed, and has been more hurt than I can fathom. And I'm still so heartbroken for her that I don't know how to process it. It was one thing to hurt me, hate me even, but to torment my child, well, that has taken my mind to some very dark places. I've chosen not to say anything to him or his family, but I struggle with that decision. And I don't know if I should reach out, if for nothing else, than to finally give him a piece of my mind. Perhaps. I've always believed silence is golden, but this still feels so unresolved and unfair. He just gets to hurt her and walk away, never even apologize, and he doesn't have to worry about hearing how awful his behavior was, because I have always stayed silent. My daughter is living a beautiful life with her husband and doesn't seem to care at this time. She tells me that it's their loss and she doesn't want them in her life if they can't accept what they did was wrong. I worry if I say anything that it could disrupt the peace she has found. However, I also personally endured for her entire life this type of behavior and feel a tiny bit entitled to find closure by telling him off. I welcome advice on what would be best to do. Leave it alone or tell him where to go. And there's an update. Thank you all so much for your feedback so far. I do want to clear up one thing. Some of you have asked why there were a lack of chairs. There wasn't. There weren't enough chairs at a single table for his family to sit together. Looking back, if he would have talked to me, I would have been able to fix it before it got out of hand. The only reason I asked my sister to bring a table into the hall and extra chairs is because I was panicked and just wanted to smooth things over for my daughter. It's easy to look back and say this or that should have been done to avoid the issue, and that may be true. However, 2 of our family friends couldn't find a space close to us, and you know what my family did? They moved things around. They got 2 chairs and 2 dinner settings, 2 glasses, and went on to have a wonderful evening celebrating my daughter and her new husband. They didn't leave. I hold her father solely responsible for his behavior. I'm not confused on what happened or who is to blame. My daughter certainly isn't to blame for expecting her special day to be held as such, and for everyone, including her father, to behave as people who love and support her, and to stay at the reception to make beautiful memories with her. Many people choose to have a more relaxed reception and do not have a seating chart, and it works out, but in the end, it isn't about you, it's about them. Also, I saw a couple comments about my husband, and yes, he is an excellent daddy to our children. I always say our children and never make a distinction between whose bio or step. It doesn't matter in our family. My husband has always treated my children as his own, loved them, taught them to drive a car, gone to ER visits, and hugged away more tears than I can count. He is an amazing father. Even my daughter has said as much, but that doesn't take away the pain of her father hurting her like this. The advice so far has been amazing. I actually feel better after posting here. I think I may have just needed to finally vent it out. I agree with many of you. If I say anything, the only person I may hurt or impact is my daughter. She is the completely innocent one in this messy situation, and I wouldn't want to hurt her. He will never hear how his treatment of me all those years, and now his treatment of our child, has hurt us. He will never acknowledge his behavior as he is who he is. And honestly, now his wife can deal with it.
And there you go, folks.
And that's the end of the story. We got there, dude. It's his wife's problem now.
Yep, she can deal with it. And you can go live your lovely life with your daughter.